Hey guys, on Facebook Live, this is Patrick from BestProducts.com, and I could not be more excited because today we're joined with New York Times bestselling author, spiritual guru, spiritual advisor, teacher, and friend in my head, Marianne Williamson.
Not just in your head.
Yeah, oh my God, in real life, it's working.
It happened.
I'm willing it. I'm already willing it to life. So welcome. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
So excited to have you here. Thank you. You have a new book out, Tears to Triumph, already life-changing. I've already breezed through the entire thing and I've taken so much from it. This book kind of is a little bit different from other things that you've written in the past, which would be A Return to Love, Divine Compensation, which completely changed my business outlook. But this one you kind of tackle what I think some people would think would be a difficult topic, which is like depression and anxiety and kind of like not really always having to self-medicate or medicate through the pharmaceutical industry, but kind of dealing with the issues. How come you think now is the time to discuss the importance of this?
Well, all of my books have to do with taking the principles, universal spiritual themes, and applying them to different issues of our lives, because spirituality doesn't mean anything unless the rubber meets the road, unless we apply it in a practical way. So all of my books have been what was going on for me, what was going on and what I sensed in the world around me that I felt passionately about, and then we talk about how this situation is contextualized spiritually. When you talk about the law of divine compensation, I wrote that book during the economic downturn when people were experiencing so much stress, so much anxiety. How does metaphysics and spirituality apply to money and trying to make a living and all of that? So I wrote this book from a place where I was thinking and experiencing my own dark night of the soul, my own deep disappointment, a real painful time in my life. But that was coupled with something that I have seen in the last few years happen so quick. You turned around, you didn't even see it, you came back, and everybody's on meds. And we have become, it's nothing new to talk about the fact that we're an over-medicated society, but particularly disturbing, I think, is the over-prescription of antidepressants. And among young people, I find it particularly disturbing. The FDA warns that for people 25 years old and younger, antidepressants actually increase, not decrease, suicidal ideation. Now, anybody who is older than the 20s knows that the 20s are hard, but they're not a mental illness. A divorce is hard, but it's not a mental illness. A heartbreak is hard, professional failure, disappointment, financial hardship, the death of a loved one. These things are difficult. I've been through them. Most people that certainly that I have worked with have been through the heartaches, the difficult, the turbulent waters of life. But there is a spectrum of normal human suffering. This is not a disorder. This is not something to medicalize. You don't medicalize normal human despair. And despair within a certain spectrum is normal. I'm not talking here about schizophrenia, and bipolar, and serious mental illnesses where the conversation around psychotherapeutic drugs is legitimate.
This is more like, you know, I'm going through a tough time. Maybe it's a breakup,
and yet
where's
I've been
the
told,
pill?
why don't you get on something?
Right.
And not only are people so often told to get on medication, serious pharmaceuticals, under these situations, but often told to expect to be on them for the rest of their lives. And I think it's a very important conversation, because numbing ourselves and distracting ourselves or doing whatever else to block our suffering is sometimes the way we fail to learn from our suffering, fail to plumb the depths of what needs to be experienced in order to learn the lessons that are to be learned there.
And that's what it seems like you say in the book and other books that I've read. From you, you're always saying it's okay to deal with these things. You know, you talk a lot about spirituality. A lot of times people think, well, if I'm on that spiritual road, then everything always has to be okay.
Right.
And I'm never angry. And and
those people are dangerous.
Right. But you're saying, like, no, it's okay to acknowledge that and to say, you know what, I'm angry about this or I'm sad about this. But you talk a lot about the willingness and to say, but I'm willing not to be, or I'm willing to perceive this differently. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of just simply being willing to see that maybe that this is something that you should be going through because there's the growth factor, or can you talk a little bit just kind of about like the importance of just being willing and open to dealing with these things?
First of all, if I may, I want to go back to something that you just talked about this. I should be happy all the time. No serious spiritual path says, quote unquote, you should be happy all the time. And the three that I look at in the book are Buddha, and then the story of Exodus in the Old Testament, Moses, and Jesus. And they and all the great religious systems actually speak to the system of, to the question and the issue of human suffering. The core message of Buddha is life is suffering. God sent Moses to deliver the Israelites from their suffering as slaves in Egypt. Jesus suffered on the cross. So all the great spiritual traditions speak to the fact that life lived outside the light of our connection to God, which simply means life lived outside love, makes us suffer. But whether it's Buddha realizing that life is suffering, which then started his path to enlightenment, or Moses delivering the Israelites and that beginning their 40-year journey through the desert on the way to the promised land, or Jesus suffering and then that crucifixion 3 days later, turning to resurrection. The great spiritual transmissions all say the realization of suffering is the beginning of the journey. And then you move through a difficult time. In Buddhism, it's when Buddha had to fight the god of illusion. I mean, all of the stories, these are all archetypal presentations of what is in secular terms called the hero's journey. But they end with enlightenment, nirvana, promised land, resurrection, self-actualization, enlightenment, and so forth. That's the purpose of our lives. So you begin with that willingness. I'm willing to see that I'm on this earth for a purpose, and that is to embody love, because love is who I am. And yet, because I am an idea in the mind of God. But whether you talk about these things in spiritual terms, religious terms, secular terms, doesn't matter. What matters is the realization, and this is what the book goes into, the entire world in which we live repudiates our spiritual truth. This world repudiates in tiny ways, all day, every day, the reality of the love, the importance of the love, the meaning of the love, making other things seem to be more important. Of course we're depressed by this. How do you keep up in today's world?
Right.
Everything's a competition. Nothing tells you that you're just valuable as you are. Nothing tells you that you are enough as you are. And so everybody's on the make to make something happen that you think will make you happy. But then, as Buddha said, things of this world bring only temporary happiness. So then even if you get it, fairy dust will begin to rub off, or somebody's right behind you, and maybe you're a winner today, but you won't be tomorrow. And then you're in despair because what you thought would make you happy didn't. So it begins with a willingness to get off that wheel of suffering, to say, wait a minute, there might be another way. I'm willing to live my life in a radically different way, and to see it through a radically different lens, because that's the only way I can be happy. And then going from that to what you said, and you're absolutely right, from a Course in Miracles perspective, that willingness is everything. There's a line in the Course in Miracles where it says, your good intentions are not enough, your willingness is everything. So let's say I'm angry.
Are you angry at me?
No, I'm not angry at you, but let's say, it's been known to
Not yet,
happen,
yeah.
not at you. No, let's say I'm angry. As you said, it's only a false spirituality. I don't get angry, really, I don't. Like I said, these people are dangerous because you're suppressing and you're denying. The spiritual path is to say, I am angry, but I am willing not to be. I am willing to see this differently. I'm willing to see the innocence in this person. For instance, let's say your boyfriend or your husband did something that made you angry. And in that moment, your ego mind would have you forget everything he's ever done right. Your ego mind would have you not give him the benefit of the doubt. Because the ego mind is like a scavenger dog, always looking for the guilt in somebody. And in that moment of my only focusing on your guilt, I am likely to say something I'll later regret, send a text I'll later regret, send an email I'll later regret. I remember when I was growing up, our parents used to say count to 10. You know, to have the emotional ability of impulse control, really, is what meditation gives us, spirituality, prayer, to say, hold back, I'm willing to see this differently. Maybe he didn't intend it the way I'm thinking he did. Maybe that's just my trigger from my own childhood thinking, reminding me of daddy not loving me enough or whatever. And willingness to change our own minds about our lives, because then our feelings change, our attitudes change, our energy changes, our behavior changes, our relationships change, our lives change.
Yeah, I mean, so well said. And I think to that point, you know, for me specifically, when you would write about that in a variety of your different books, that was one of the things I noticed. I was like, oh yeah, you know what, I do that, and I think that everyone does it, but I'll just look at myself and say, you're always looking at like the guilt in someone else, or like what they're not doing and what they're not giving, and you always talk about what are you not doing and what are you not giving, and it really is like mental gymnastics, and it's like going to the gym, like you say, like you don't just go to the gym one time, lift some weights, and be like, I don't need to go to the gym anymore. Like this is stuff that you need to practice and think about regularly, and I think that when you do, it really does change
Absolutely.
your relationships and everything, and it's all of a sudden almost like everything falls right into place easily. It's not a struggle anymore, which is nice.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you because you've clearly actually read my books.
Oh no, like I'm like the obsessive fan.
Well,
I mean, not that kind of way, but no, yes, I've read them, reread them.
I appreciate it. You're a student of these same topics I'm a student of, and you're absolutely correct. It is about, just like you do physical exercise to hone your physical muscles so you can move, you do spiritual exercise so that you can remain non-reactive and still, and only then do you see clearly. You're not triggered, you're not acting out of your wounds. We're all wounded. The problem is, are you going to act out of your wounds? And if you're in a reactive place, you're going to do that. And everything that you said is absolutely true. And when we do act out of the trigger, act out of the wound, act out of the fear, act out of the perception of guilt, we bring chaos into our lives. And when we drop that, as we learn through a serious spiritual practice to dismantle the thought system that leads to that, then we do find ourselves in an ordered universe. It's like your body. Every cell knows what to do. Every cell is assigned to collaborate with other cells, to serve the healthy functioning of the whole. That's why your lungs are breathing right now. That's why your heart is beating right now. That's why you process waste. That's why your brain is working. Nature actually does know what it's doing. Mm-hmm. But when we, through the miscreative use of free will, move into fear rather than love, blame rather than blessing, lovelessness rather than compassion and mercy, we throw off the natural intelligence of the universe. That's what a cancer cell is. It's a malignancy. It forgets that it's here to be collaborative with the whole. And when we do make our focus that we love, that we collaborate, then we find ourselves, as you said, in a much easier place. Everybody's in such struggle mode these days. Everybody's in such grasping. And the more you grasp and the more you struggle, the more you repel the very things you want. But when we learn to rest, to be still and to know that nothing matters here but that we love each other and try to rise to the occasion and collaborate for something good, the outcomes take care of themselves.
Right. And for me, one of the things that I had practiced was, you talk a lot about, which I love this quote, if I had arms to show off, I would get a tattoo, but I don't, so I don't want to show anybody that. Happiness is not circumstance dependent. For me, that was such this aha, life-changing, because you talk about, happiness is not circumstance dependent, meaning, when I'm in the relationship, that's when things will be okay. As soon as I get this level of status in my career, that's when I'll really put in the effort. And we'll talk about like acting it now. And I think the other piece is, I always say, and I always do, like the hand motions of like when you're so obsessed with like getting something that you think you want, you're like holding on like this. But if you can just say like, I think this is what I want, but I'm open to, if God, the universe, whatever, has something better in store for me, I'm open to that. And it's almost like talking yourself off the ledge a little bit. And as soon as I was able to do that and really let go of these things, that like, no, this is what I have to do. This is once this happens, then I'm good. Once I was able to let go of that, the things that came into my life, it was shocking. And I would talk to my parents about it, and they're like, this is crazy. And I'm like, it isn't, and no, it isn't, right? And they, they're reading the books now, right. And they're, and they're old school, they grew up in the Catholic Church and Catholic schools, where, one of the things that we had talked about, and I wanted to get your take on this too, is, when I talk to my friends about this, or even family, people already think like, oh, well, is this a church book? Is this like a cult? Is this, and it's like, no. And I love how you talk about God, Buddha, Jesus, the universe, love is all interchangeable, and you're not, unless I'm misunderstanding, you're not really labeling it as like, this is the only way, like this is the one you have to. And I think once you can take that label off, like it all starts to make a little bit more sense.
Absolutely, there's one truth, and it's spoken in many different ways, many different languages. You can talk about it in religious terms, spiritual terms, secular terms. It's about love. And that when we do allow ourselves to recognize that love of each other is the source of our happiness and the purpose of our lives. Like you said, then you rest. Buddha said that the things of this world can only bring temporary happiness. Everybody's grasping, everybody's struggling to get what we think would make us happy, but then the fairy dust is going to rub off if it's something outside yourself. Then you're going to be in despair because what you thought made you happy ultimately didn't. So exactly what you said, it's happiness is a frame of mind. Happiness is a decision that we make. And when, this is very radical, but the truth is, the key to happiness is to want nothing. Because you think, I'm not happy because I want something. Well, is your unhappiness because you don't have it, or is your unhappiness because you want it? And your wanting it puts it in the future. Maybe I will get it in the future. Whereas the only real source of happiness is, there's a line, an old metaphysical line, virtue is its own reward. Just being here, just if you know how to be present with someone, I might think that there's someplace better for me to be. I might think there's somebody better for me to be
Nothing's
with.
better than here, right?
But you know what? It's easy enough to kind of see that here, because this really is cool, because we're talking about my book and stuff.
Yeah.
But even if I couldn't, and even within, if I was in a frame of mind where I always think I have to get somewhere, then I wouldn't even be able to be present enough here at all. And that's where most people, this is why we're not comfortable in our skin. Most people today aren't comfortable in our skin. That's why everybody's in anxiety, have an anxiety disorder. Who doesn't?
Right.
Because the entire culture is predicated on what are essentially some rather depressing ideas, which is you have to achieve something else in order to have value. You have to get something in order for your life to mean anything. You're not, that somehow we're not good enough as we are. And when you realize, when you see yourself as a creation of God, no better, no worse than anybody else, but that we are all on the inside perfect creations of God. That doesn't mean we haven't made mistakes. We can atone for those mistakes. Then what happens is that you relax into who you are, and then you start seeing the things you really do need to see in order sometimes to improve. And I think those times when we're sad in life is, I know in my own life, sometimes, let's say you lost someone you loved, and I've lost my parent, I've lost my sister, I've lost my best friend. What I learned, everything is about, did you learn to love more? Let me tell you something, I now have, because of those deaths, a visceral understanding, not just a intellectual understanding. I get that this physical existence does not last forever. So whoever I love them out. Suck the juice out of this, because anything could happen on any day. And on a lot of the things, like heartbreak, relationships that don't work, divorces, professional failures, in my life, if you're really honest with yourself, because you were talking about earlier, the idea that we're all 100% responsible for our own experience. What was I not giving? I was in a breakup of a relationship, and for about 3 or 4 months, all I could think about was what he did wrong, and I could get plenty of support from all the people around me. We've all got the jargon. He's a narcissist. He's a love avoidant. I mean, we've all got the jargon down, right? To just support each other.
Yeah.
He was guilty. He was the guilty one. No, you were pure. You were perfect. You were innocent. After about 3 or 4 months, it was kind of like that Margaritaville song. Jimmy Buffett, finally in the last verse, he gets to hell, it was my own damn fault. After about 3 or 4 months, I could see, okay, Marianne, now let's talk about your part. And that's part of what's depressing sometimes. So psychic pain is like physical pain. It's there for a reason. It is conveying a message. And if you have a broken leg, you can't just take morphine, you have to reset the bone. And if you have psychic pain, it's calling us to reset our thinking.
And to not be afraid of it.
Not to be afraid of it. What we should be afraid of is not dealing with it.
Right.
And if you have 45 tears to cry, crying 30 is not enough. Everybody these days talks about the wisdom of the body, and everybody's doing muscle testing. The body has its wisdom. Why should we not see our tears as part of that wisdom? Who says you're crying too long? You know what I'm saying?
Right. It's like, get over it.
Yeah,
right,
people are like,
right.
your mother
It's
died,
been a week.
it's been 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Exactly, that's
Yeah.
where we've come in our society. This is very dysfunctional. This is not emotionally or psychologically healthy.
Yeah.
That which is spiritually healthy is psychologically and emotionally healthy. So I think that these times of the dark night of the soul are sometimes where we learn the most about ourselves. We learn the most about going into the next experience and behaving differently so that you, number one, don't create as much suffering for yourself and others, and number two, develop the musculature to be able to endure hard times. If you don't know how to navigate sad times in life, you don't know how to navigate life.
Right.
And so this idea of just medicating ourselves and you know, bypassing the experience and going numb to it is a way of infantilizing ourselves. You don't really totally grow up if you don't know that life has some hard times too. And that's how we become adults who are not only more functional, but less afraid of hard times. You know, hello darkness, my old friend.
Right.
Good to talk to you again. Simon and Garfunkel, it's like, this is gonna be tough. Get some bubble bath and get some candles and get some soft music and get whatever you're gonna need to support you, because this is gonna be a tough few weeks, and that's okay.
Right. That's so great. You were talking about like the speed, like everyone's like go, and it's always so competitive.
With a desperate edge these days.
And you can, and it's funny because I started meditating after you basically told me to, and it worked. But it's, for me, the challenging part was what you say when you wake up in the morning, like don't check your cell phone,
Right.
don't check your emails, stay off Facebook, don't turn on the TV, don't drink your coffee yet, don't get the newspaper.
I didn't say don't drink the coffee yet.
Right.
I admit
But I because I'm like, I don't want to mess up meditation, but it's like going in it like in a quiet, and it really is quieting yourself down. How has meditation changed you, and what do you see like the benefit?
Well, let's talk about that. You know, first of all, when you first wake up in the morning is when your mind is most open to new impressions. So if the first thing you do is you take in the stress of the world, then you're at the effect of that, and it's harder to meditate after that. So a lot of people do that. They wake up and the first thing they do is go to the electronics. Now, you wake up in the morning, you take a bath, you take a shower, because you don't want to take yesterday's dirt out with you into the day. If you don't meditate, if you don't pray in the morning, if you don't center yourself through yoga, through whatever you do, your own prayer, spiritual work, who have I not forgiven? Let me send love to everyone I'm going to be today. Let me surrender my judgments of whoever I'm going to have that meeting with, because if I bring in a judgment, I'm going to throw myself out of the celestial order, and I'm going to say things I regret.
Right.
I'm not going to, the energy's not going to be cool. Even if I took a shower and I washed the dirt off my body, if I don't meditate, if I don't pray, if I don't go into my spiritual center, then I go into the day and I'm carrying yesterday's stress. I might not be carrying yesterday's dirt, but I'm carrying yesterday's stress. And today, not just your stress, the stress of everyone in Istanbul, the stress of everyone in Somalia, the stress of everyone in Syria. And so everybody's like this. So spiritual work is how we empower ourselves. It's counterintuitive, but the way to be powerful within the physical, mortal, material world is to know that you're not of this world. If I only identify myself with my physical self, I am at the effect, emotionally and psychologically, of things that happen within this realm. But it's achieving an internal mastery to know that you, like everyone else, come from a realm beyond this. You find your peace before you go out into the day. Like I said, send your love before you. Think of just even, spend that 5 minutes, think of everyone who's in your office, everyone you work with, employer, employee, husband, wife, lover, friends. Just send them your love. It's something you actually do, especially the people that you know you have some conflict with.
Right. And what do you say about that? That's when you say, when you have conflict with someone, what are you supposed to do? If you have like an enemy-ish or a frenemy, like what? Because I love this.
Well, I don't know exactly which line you mean. I've said a few things, but that the love in me salutes the love in you. Mm-hmm. That you say in any situation that's difficult, dear God, your understanding, you know as well as I do, I can be very neurotic in this situation. Please adjust my thinking, adjust my energy. And then you go out into the day empowered. And you see situations miraculously change the way you said, and things fall into place. You say, I can't believe this.
Right.
I didn't know about this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you do now.
Yeah. Oh, I know. It's funny because it's like the times when I am meditating, which I have as a daily practice every morning, but then, you know, sometimes things come up and, you know, one day turns into two where you didn't do it. And So I feel like you actually feel different. I can feel like things seem a little bit out of order. Work
like
sometimes
physical
seems
exercise.
a little chaotic all of a sudden, and so now I'm able to look, and when like things are a little chaotic in my life, I'm like, oh, here's what I'm not doing, and I need to get back on track.
And it is like physical exercise in that your body starts to feel kind of out of sorts, and you haven't been at the gym or you haven't done yoga, and it's just kind of creepy, and you can feel, because our muscles and our nervous systems are constantly bombarded today, bombarded by ultimately meaningless stimulus, and we're all like this, you know. And meditation, the stillness of the mind, the stillness of the body, gives you not only peace, but peace that you carry with you. Then you can be effective in your life, in your career, and then you really do feel part of this evolving revolution of consciousness that I think we all yearn for, especially today, because we're seeing as never before the consequences of a world that has mislaid its soul. And if you know, love is to fear what light is to darkness. When you turn on the light, the darkness cannot be there. And when you are centered in the love, the fear cannot be there. There's a lot to scare you today if you're not centered in your heart. And if you're centered in your love, it's all going to be okay, because there are so many millions of people on the planet today who are awakening to the idea that there might be another way, that love is the other way, that if today I'm any way better than I was yesterday at learning to bless rather than blame, to accept rather than to judge, to give rather than to withhold my forgiveness. Miracles happen when we love. And anytime we withhold love, we're deflecting a miracle that would otherwise occur. More and more people are waking up to this, and I think where we are, there's so many books and there's so many tapes now, I think it's the idea of more and more of us who do know this stuff to practice it ever more deeply. And what I tried to do in that book is to talk about how these things apply particularly to those hard times in life that all of us experience at one time or another.
Right. Okay. For those of you that are just joining us now, I feel like I completely forgot we were filming anything. Welcome. We're here with Marianne Williamson, who is a New York Times bestselling author, and her new book is Tears to Triumph, The Spiritual Journey from Suffering to Enlightenment. You can get it at Amazon.com, and you can also visit her at Marianne.com, and you can also go to BestProducts.com/books, where we have a review of the book, and it's in our top 10 for the summer reads.
Thank you. And you know what? He thought he didn't know how to interview.
Well, in my mind, I'm like, what would Oprah do? And I'm not even joking. I'm like,
I think Oprah would be impressed.
Please tell her. We're going to get to her in a minute. But do we have any questions for any viewers at home?
We have a bunch of questions from the audience, but I'm going to do mine.
Oh, okay, yeah.
First.
Oh, sure, Trump.
So, what's the best way to let go of an outcome that you think that you want?
Well, you actually don't know what outcome would serve. You know, let's say you think that you want, let's say an actor who says, I really want a part in a particular television show. And you do all kinds of trying to make it happen and using creative visualization, all this to try to make it happen. And you work hard enough at it that maybe that happens. And then you get a phone call about 2 weeks later from Martin Scorsese. And Martin Scorsese is doing a major feature film and would love you for a particular part. But you can't be in it because you're already under contract for that little part in that little TV show that you thought was one that was going to make you happy. An embryo doesn't have to struggle to become a baby. And an acorn doesn't have to struggle to become an oak tree. And a bud doesn't have to struggle to become a blossom. So you don't have to worry that if you are simply at rest giving up outcome, that outcomes will not occur. It's the idea that your self-will actually not only doesn't know what would be best, doesn't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but that a natural intelligence, the same one that moves through every cell of the body, is moving through you. The universe is intentional. It is intentional that bud become the blossom. It is intentional that the night become the day. And it is already intentional that we arise into the highest level of creative manifestation. And by being still, that power of the universe moves more easily through us. So it's when you say you give up the outcome, it's that I don't know what would be the best outcome. If my only prayer is that I be of service, that in some way who I am today, what I do, who I talk to, what I say, serves the higher functioning of the whole, that's how you get to your individual glorification.
Okay.
When you make it all about me and what I want, you're separating yourself out of the whole like a cancer cell does. And that's destructive. It's not ultimately creative. You might get an outcome that you want, but you're not living in the zone of miracles and like,
There's
whoa,
something bigger.
kick-ass productivity.
Right.
Okay. So another question from the audience is, for people watching, is how do you know that meditation is working?
Only through experience. None of this means anything unless you experience it. Don't do it because I said it. Don't do it because Patrick says it. Don't do it. This is, real spirituality, which is at the heart and core of all great religious teachings, is practical. It does apply. Try meditating. And I don't know, you tell me, did it serve you to be calmer? I mean, Patrick gave a fantastic testimony today to the effect it had on his life, but the ultimate testimony is the effect it has on your life.
Cool. So I'd like to do a little bit of a speed round if you want to play along.
Okay.
Because this is all deep, but and it can be fun, and it is fun, and I had fun. You have it? You all right?
I'm having
Good.
fun.
Okay. So we have two choices.
Okay.
Well, you have two choices, and I'll do whatever you say. You can pick the yellow card or the pink/orange. There'll be a lightning round of about 60 seconds with just rapid fire questions. 10 questions that just have to do with Oprah, or 10 questions that are a general potpourri about
Potpourri.
Okay, and there could be some Oprah ones stuck in there, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so for those of you at home who don't know, but I bet you everybody already does know, is that you were basically almost like the first of Oprah's book club, before she had the book club with A Return to Love.
Yes.
And I'm assuming that had to have been somewhat life-changing.
Absolutely.
For you. Okay, great. All right, so this will just be anything and quick and go, and you can pass and just hit me if you need to. Favorite reality show?
U.S. politics.
Okay. New York or LA?
Both. I think it was Baz Luhrmann said, live in New York, but not so long that you become hard. Live in LA, but not so long that you become soft.
Okay.
I thought that was great.
I love that quote.
The two existential bookends that hold the country together.
Biggest celebrity that you have in your cell phone? We don't need the number. Although if you want to tell me, I can.
Oprah.
Take a moment. Take a moment for that. Can you tell the difference between any of the Kardashians, honestly? Do you know?
Yeah.
You can?
Yeah, Kim Kardashian, I ran for Congress a couple of years ago, and she was very lovely, and she did a whole thing on her site about voting, and I really appreciated that. And she has a child. I think she has another one on the way, or is having some, and was very interested in food and GMOs, and
surprising.
A Course in Miracles is a path in non-judgment, and I don't know about the other ones, but I found her lovely.
All right, good. I like that. Orange is the New Black or Game of Thrones?
Well, I love Taylor Schilling,
Okay.
so Orange is the New Black.
But did you see the latest season?
No, I just a little in and out.
Okay, I won't say, we talked about it yesterday. Well, no spoilers, but if you can, do it. The last person that you said no to?
It was a work situation.
Okay. Because you say sometimes the loving answer is no. It's
Yes,
okay to say no
absolutely.
sometimes.
You don't have to worry that love will make you incapable of setting healthy boundaries. Anybody who's a mother knows, or a father knows, that sometimes it's because you love your child. They say, no, you cannot have another candy bar. Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how well do you think this is going?
I think you're great.
All
I think
right.
you're wonderful.
I am sweating profusely.
You really are.
What's one thing you wish you could have a do-over for, if anything?
Something that came up for me this morning. I
This.
Really, no.
You're like, I wish we said no.
I do over something where it's so funny. I was talking earlier about a relationship where it took me months to see that I had gotten it wrong. I had quite a thing this morning. I was talking to my daughter about it. A meeting that didn't go well, and I thought for months that, that person was, and I realized today I didn't practice what I preach on that one. My life goes really well when I practice what I preach, but it's like physical exercise. It works if you work it. And I realized that I went into the meeting with some judgments and some haughtiness, I think, and but in A Course in Miracles, this idea of atonement, a lot of times we're so down on ourselves because we made a mistake, wish I had the do-over. It is a cosmic principle that you can reset, That's what in Catholicism is confession, in Judaism, Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year, Day of Atonement. In Alcoholics Anonymous, you take a fearless moral inventory, you admit the exact nature of your wrongs, and then this really does open the universe to provide another experience where you get to start over and do it better. So I did have one of those this morning, and I have atoned in my heart, and I have recognized my part. The Course in Miracles says only what you are not giving can be lacking in any situation. And so I'm trusting that the universe will give me another opportunity, but I got my little slap.
All right. Well, but you practice it, and that's what I think is important.
Exactly.
You're doing
and
it.
I think that's where most of us are, and where most of us are calling each other to be. That we're not so enlightened that we never make these mistakes, but that we're have enough presence of mind to be able to own when we do, and then to get back on the wagon, the spiritual wagon, get back on track, and particularly with atonement, recognition that we made a mistake, apologize. You don't tarry in the fields of self-hatred, but you know, sometimes people say, well, you can't make a mistake. Yes, we can. And you don't want to be a person who doesn't feel remorse. Only sociopaths feel no remorse. So I had to go through an hour today, really and then getting back up.
Celebrities, they're just like us. All right, we're almost done.
Concept.
Not in too much of a personal way, but have you ever been offered a show on OWN, or would you ever do your own show, which I need you to?
Would I ever do my own show in general on television?
Mm-hmm.
Not OWN, just
or anything, yeah.
Absolutely. In the past, the culture has really caught up a lot to spiritual things that in the past were considered fringe. Today, you're fringe if you don't know this conversation. This conversation has become so mainstream. In the past, I never felt offered the opportunity to really say the bottom line as I see it. And so it was kind of psychobabble, so it was like, no, this will hurt rather than help. Today, I would love it, and I think the world is ready for it. I think the culture is ready for it. And also, I'm getting older, so I want to do whatever I can while I can.
Right. Yeah. Well, you've had podcasts. You do those weekly meetings and talks in New York.
Yes,
where is it?
they're live streamed and for free if you go to Marianne.com. Every Wednesday night I speak here in New York at the Middle Collegiate Church.
I'm going to come.
I hope so, and tell me if you're there. But people can watch from anywhere in the world. Marianne.com, just register, and the link is up, I think, for 72 hours.
Okay, great. Almost done. Favorite cheat meal?
Cheat meal?
Yeah, if you're not watching what you're eating, if you're this is the thing I really want.
I love corn nuts.
Do you really?
Yeah,
Okay.
Really. If I'm ever at 7-Eleven, I'll cop a corn nut.
Danny, why did you get corn nuts? How did you not know this?
No, I wouldn't want that.
Who's the last celebrity that emailed you?
I'm not going to tell you.
Okay. I'm going to pretend it's Oprah.
All the celebrities.
Well,
The Course in Miracles, that's part of the neurosis of our culture.
I have neurosis.
No, you're pretty cool. You're pretty together. But in the Course in Miracles, it talks about all of the children of God are special, and none of the children of God are special. This celebrity mania, it really is part of our this neurotic thing that has set into the culture. It's just too much, and it's what makes everybody on the make to be somebody. You already are somebody, and it's not helpful.
Okay. All right, I'll learn my lesson. Finally, what do you think heaven is like?
Heaven is an awareness of our oneness. It's not another place. It's not after we die. The Course in Miracles talks about it. It's an awareness of our oneness. Heaven is when you fall in love, when you hold a baby, when you forgive somebody or they forgive you. This is kind of it. You're being really nice to me in this interview. You're being kind to me. You're being generous. And you're doing what you're supposed to do, and I'm trying to do what I'm supposed to do, and we're collaborating, and hopefully somebody is watching something, hearing something that might be helpful to them, hopefully. This is it.
That's so great. Thank you so much. This has been such an honor for me.
Me too.
I feel like anything that we can do to continue to get that messaging out, it really is life-changing. You're awesome. This was so great. Thank you for indulging me in so many of these ridiculous questions. Again, one last time, please pick up Marianne Williamson's latest book, Tears to Triumph, on Amazon.com, Marianne.com, or BestProducts.com/books. You can see Marianne, all of her dates and her touring is on her website, or just the New York ones at least, and you can live stream.
LA on July 18th, Denver on July 15th.
Okay, great. Thank you again so much.
Thank you.
You've been awesome. Thanks everyone for watching. Feel free to subscribe to us and follow at Best Products Facebook page. Thanks guys. Thank
bless you.